Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary tales come to life. Enjoy the journey. The alarm blared for the third time. Matthew Calvin's hand shot out from under his jacket, which he'd been using as a makeshift blanket, and slammed down on the console, missing the silence button entirely. His fingers skidded across a row of blinking indicators, accidentally activating the ship's external floodlights. "For the love of," Matt groaned, squinting as the reflected light poured through the cockpit viewport. He pulled his jacket over his head and rolled deeper into the pilot's chair. "Captain," the mechanical voice boomed directly beside his ear. Matt jumped, nearly tumbling out of his seat. "Damn it, Bark, personal space." The mechanoid stood at perfect attention, its boxy metallic frame gleaming under the cockpit lights. Despite having what passed for a face, a simple display screen with two blue dots for eyes, Bark somehow managed to convey the permanent disapproval of a drill sergeant. "Sir, you have been sleeping for 6 hours and 27 minutes while multiple system alerts have been triggered," Bark announced, his volume still set to "Wake the Dead." "We have received an incoming transmission marked Priority 1. Matt rubbed his eyes. "Can't it wait? I'm in the middle of a really important dream involving me, a beach, and absolutely zero work. The message is from Galactic Corp Central Payment. Offered is," Bark's eyes blinked twice. "Triple standard rate." That got Matt's attention. He sat up, his perpetually disheveled hair sticking out in all directions. "Triple? Are they delivering antimatter to a supernova or something?" "I believe the cargo is classified as a gift basket," Bark replied. "Gift basket, right? And I'm the Emperor of Andra." At that moment, the cockpit door slid open with a metallic groan. Another item on the endless repair list for the "Let's Go and Hope" or "Flying Junk," as the docking authorities typically recorded it. C slipped through the gap before the door even finished its laborious journey. All four of her arms were in motion, one twirling a wrench, another holding a diagnostics tablet, the third wiping engine grease off her already stained overalls, and the fourth casually flipping through a holographic maintenance manual. Her violet skin practically glowed under the cockpit lights, contrasting with the dark purple stripes along her arms that shifted patterns according to her mood, currently pulsing with impatience. Well, Sleeping Beauty finally stirs," she quipped, tossing the wrench from one hand to another with practiced ease. "The engine's cooling system is now operating at a breathtaking 42% efficiency, a new record for how low we can go before actually exploding." Matt yawned dramatically. "Add it to the list." "The list," C laughed, a sound like bells tinkling. "It's now so long it's causing data storage issues." Bark's display flickered with what Matt had come to recognize as mechanical irritation. "The priority message, Captain, requires immediate attention." Fine, Matt waved a dismissive hand. "Play the damn thing." The center console lit up, projecting a corporate logo with all sharp angles and insincerely curved text that read, "Galactic Corp, we deliver more than just packages." The logo faded and was replaced by a stiff-looking man in an immaculate suit. "Courier Service Designation Alpha 9274. This is Dispatch Supervisor Terrell. We have a high-priority delivery requiring immediate transport to the Voldor system. Package is classified Level 2, meaning sealed until delivery. Contents registered as ceremonial gift basket. Handling instructions, delicate, temperature-controlled, no scanning. Delivery must be made directly to recipient at the Royal Palace. Compensation has been adjusted to reflect urgency." Matt raised an eyebrow. "Royal Palace? That's new." The message continued, "Accept or decline within 5 standard minutes." The projection disappeared, replaced by a simple binary choice hovering in the air. "Royal Palace means royalty. Royalty means protocols," Bark interjected, his voice taking on a cautionary tone. "Protocols that you, sir, have historically shown a remarkable inability to follow." C slid into the co-pilot seat, feet propped up on the console. "Last time we dealt with royalty," you told the Baron of Centaur for that his monial headdress looked like something that died on a windshield. It did. Matt protested. And he agreed with me, after the third drink, before or after he set his guards on us. Details, C said as she examined her nails. Matt waved dismissively before squinting at the payment figure. He whistled, that's a lot of credits for delivering a fruit basket. Sounds suspicious. Sounds profitable, C noted. Sounds like a violation of at least 17 protocols, Bark added. Matt stretched, his joints popping as he finally committed to full wakefulness. Triple pay means triple food, triple fuel, and triple parts for this flying coffin. He jabbed a finger at the accept option. Plot a course for Valdora. Course plotted, sir, Bark responded with mechanical resignation. Estimated arrival after hyperspace jump, approximately 6 hours. Perfect, Matt said, already reclining his chair again. Wake me in 5 hours and 59 minutes, sir. Bark's voice took on that edge that indicated an incoming lecture. Pre-jump protocols require. C interrupted, you handle pre-jump. Matt, he mumbled, pulling his jacket back over his head. I need to conserve energy for all that royal etiquette. C rolled all 4 of her eyes simultaneously. You wouldn't recognize etiquette if it bit you on the ass. Language, Lieutenant Copy, Bark admonished. He's right, though, C continued, ignoring the mechanoid's reprimand as she began the pre-jump sequence. You'll need all your energy just to avoid starting an interplanetary incident from under your jacket. Matt's muffled voice replied, when have I ever started an interplanetary incident? Both C and Bark responded in perfect unison, Riel 7. That wasn't an incident, Matt protested. That was a minor diplomatic misunderstanding, they fired 16 missile salvos at our ship. Bark stated flatly, like I said, misunderstanding. 6 hours later, the flying junk dropped out of hyperspace with the typical symphony of alarming noises that accompanied most of the ship's operations. Matt, now somewhat more alert after his extended nap, leaned forward in his seat as Valdora came into view. The planet was stunning, even he had to admit that the vast purple oceans contrasted with land masses covered in shimmering silver vegetation. The cities were architectural marvels, spiraling structures that seemed to defy gravity, rising from the landscape like elaborate crystal formations. Wow, he whispered, despite himself. Valdora, Bark announced unnecessarily. Population, approximately 4 billion. Government, matriarchal monarchy with an elected secondary council. Primary exports, biotech, luxury textiles, and psychic crystals. Known for strict social hierarchies and elaborate courtship rituals. Spare me the travel brochure, Matt yawned. Just tell me where to land so we can drop off this fancy fruit basket and get paid. Attempting to establish contact with the delivery coordinates, C reported, my fingers are dancing across the communications panel. After several failed attempts, she frowned. That's weird, no response from the recipient. But I'm getting a redirect from orbital control. They're directing us to land at the Royal Palace landing pad. That's convenient, Matt remarked. That's highly irregular. Bark, protocol indicates, Bark corrected, it indicates we land where they tell us to land, deliver the shiny box, and collect our money. Matt ran a hand through his perpetually messy hair, which only made it worse. What could possibly go wrong? The ship's communication system suddenly blared to life with a stern female voice, unidentified vessel, this is Valdora Royal Air Control. You will follow the transmitted landing coordinates precisely, deviation will result in immediate defensive action, authentication, and purpose of visit. Matt leaned toward the comm, this is, Captain Matthew Calvin of the courier vessel. Let's go and hope we have a delivery, he glanced at the manifest. For Her Royal Majesty, a gift basket. A pause, then, unidentified vessel, maintain current vector. You are being scanned. Matt frowned. The instructions specifically said no scanning. They're scanning us, not the package, C pointed out, though she looked concerned. But their scan is pretty intense, military grade. Captain, Bark interjected, his display flashing red, I am detecting multiple defense platforms locking onto our position, defense platforms for a delivery. Matt's casual demeanor slipped momentarily. What kind of fruit basket is this? The comm crackled again, courier vessel, you are cleared for landing. You will be arriving during the annual celestial reception. The package is expected. Follow the landing beam precisely. As the communication cut off, a tractor beam locked onto their ship, giving them little choice in the matter. Well, this got interesting fast, Matt muttered as the ship began its guided descent. See, make sure our emergency boosters are primed, just in case we need a quick exit. Already on it, she replied, her 4 hands working independently across different control panels. Though if those defense platforms decide we're a problem, we won't get far in this junk heap. Thank you for the vote of confidence, Matt said dryly. The ship broke through the cloud layer, revealing a sprawling palace complex that glittered like a massive gemstone in the late afternoon sun. The landing beam guided them toward an elaborate landing pad adorned with what appeared to be ceremonial markings. Bark, what's the deal with this annual celestial reception? Matt asked, eyeing the increasingly ornate surroundings with growing unease. The annual celestial reception is Valdora's most significant diplomatic event, Bark explained. Representatives from 17 star systems attend. It coincides with the appearance of the twin moons, considered sacred in Valdorian culture. Protocols for attendance are extremely strict. And we're crash landing right into the middle of it, Matt finished. Perfect. The ship touched down with surprising gentleness, the tractor beam compensating for the flying junk's notoriously unreliable landing gear. Through the viewport, Matt could see elegantly dressed figures moving about, some already turning to stare at the dilapidated courier ship with obvious disdain. Sir, Bark's voice had taken on a pleading quality, might I suggest that you at least change out of your, time for a wardrobe upgrade. Matt declared, grabbing the temperature-controlled container from its secure hold, let's deliver this thing and get out before they realize I'm not wearing whatever passes for formal attire around here. Matt, C called as he headed for the exit, at least try not to insult anyone royal, please. Matt flashed his trademark lazy grin. When have I ever insulted royalty? Riel 7, both C and Bark shouted in unison. You two really need to let that go, Matt muttered, hitting the door release. The opulence of the royal palace hit Matt like a physical wave as he stepped through a set of massive crystal doors. With the package tucked casually under his arm, the hall before him stretched seemingly endlessly, a sealed representation of Valdora's night sky, complete with slowly moving celestial bodies. The gathered crowd wore elaborate outfits that seemed to shimmer and change colors as they moved. Compared to the glittering assemblage, Matt, in his worn courier jacket, faded cargo pants, and scuffed boots, might as well have been wearing a trash bag. As he made his way down the stairs, the expressions in the hall ranged from shocked to disgusted to merely curious. Excuse me, coming through, important delivery, he announced, sidestepping a waiter carrying what appeared to be living appetizers. Anyone know where I can find her royal, whatever? The crowd parted before him, less out of respect and more out of apparent horror at his casual demeanor. At the far end of the hall, Matt spotted what had to be the center of attention, an elaborate crystal throne upon a raised dais, surrounded by attendant beings. He muttered, making a beeline for it. As he approached, he noticed a tall, regal woman with elaborate silver hair speaking with what appeared to be important dignitaries. She wore a gown that seemed woven from actual starlight, its pattern shifting to mimic constellations. Hey there, Matt said with a lazy smile, sidling up to her. Got a delivery for Her Royal Majesty. Any chance you could point me toward the boss lady? The entire hall fell silent, every eye turned toward him. The woman slowly turned, her expression a perfect mask of controlled shock. You address Queen Vastra of Valdora, keeper of the twin moons, guardian of the sacred lineage, she intoned, as an attendant nearby spoke in a trembling voice, either out of fear or rage, possibly both. Matt's lazy grin didn't falter. "Great, package delivery for you," he said, thrusting the container forward. "Just need a signature, digital or thumb print works." The Queen's eyes narrowed dangerously. "You interrupt the sacred reception to deliver a package?" "Triple-rate delivery, very important package," Matt corrected, clearly seeking somewhere to set down the box so he could retrieve his signature pad. He spotted a convenient flat surface nearby, the ornate throne's armrest. He casually placed the package on it and began rummaging through his pockets. A collective gasp echoed through the hall. The Queen's face paled. "The sacred throne is not a table, off-worlder," she hissed. Sorry, Matt muttered, retrieving the package. As he lifted it, the thermal seal disengaged with a soft hiss. "Oops, curiosity always gets my better of me." He peered inside. Nestled in what appeared to be ceremonial silk was an oddly shaped fruit, its skin shifting through colors like an oil slick on water. "What is this, anyway?" he wondered aloud. Lifting the fruit from its container, he said, "Looks fancy." Before anyone could stop him, Matt, feeling peckish after his long nap, took a casual bite. "Not bad," he remarked while chewing thoughtfully, "but a bit sour, though." Suddenly, the hall erupted in chaos. Attendants fell to their knees, dignitaries backed away, and someone screamed. The Queen's composed expression shattered into naked shock. "You have consumed the fruit of initiation." Her voice rang out, magnified by the hall's acoustics. Matt froze mid-chew. What now?" The sacred fruit, grown only once every 7 cycles and meant only for those who would seek union with the royal bloodline, had been eaten. The Queen's voice rose nearly to a shriek. "By ancient law, you have initiated the trials of worth." "What, the trials of worth? What?" Matt swallowed hard, suddenly regretting his snack choice. The Queen stood to her full height, her gown seeming to absorb the light around her. The off-worlder must now prove his strength before the princess. "Such is the law, such is our way." From behind the throne, a figure stepped forward, emerging from the shadows. Matt hadn't even noticed her presence until his heart skipped a beat. Despite his best efforts to maintain his usual indifference, she was tall and lithe, moving with the grace of a predator. Her skin was a vibrant violet that seemed to glow from within, scattered with darker purple markings that swirled like galaxies. Her eyes were an electric blue with vertical pupils, contracting as she studied him with open curiosity. A cascade of emerald green hair fell past her shoulders, adorned with what appeared to be living crystal ornaments that chimed softly as she moved. Her black dress clung to her perfect figure, the material absorbing and emitting light simultaneously, with a slit running up one side that revealed a long, toned leg. To any human, the combination might have seemed gaudy, but to him, it was otherworldly and captivating. He had to admit, absolutely stunning. The Princess of Valdora fixed him with a gaze that contained equal parts amusement and cold calculation. Matt stared back, the half-eaten fruit still in his hand. "Well, expletive," he muttered through a mouthful. "I thought it was just a snack." The princess's lips curved into what might have been a smile, or a threat, or possibly both. "It seems," she said, her voice like velvet over steel, "we have an initiated suitor." 3 trials. Matt stared at the Queen in disbelief as royal guards surrounded him. Is this some kind of princess bride situation? Should I be looking out for rodents of unusual size next? In the Grand Council chamber, his voice echoed. No one laughed at the reference. Instead, a dozen stern-faced Valdorian officials glared at him from their elevated seats, forming a semicircle behind Queen Vastra. The elaborate chamber, with its constellation-mapped ceiling and crystalline pillars, might have been impressive under different circumstances. Right now, it felt like the fanciest execution chamber in the galaxy. "The sacred laws cannot be broken," the Queen declared, her voice reverberating throughout the chamber. "You have consumed the fruit of initiation. You will face the trials of worth, or you and your companions will face immediate execution for this sacrilege. Matt glanced toward the corner, where Bark and C stood flanked by armored guards. C's forearms were restrained behind her back with glowing manacles, and Bark's systems had been partially deactivated, his eye lights dimmed to half brightness. "Look, Matt," he tried again in his most reasonable tone, "this is clearly a misunderstanding. I'm just a delivery guy who got hungry. Can't we just pay a fine or something?" Queen Vastra's eyes narrowed. "The sacred fruit is grown only once every 7 cycles. It cannot be replaced, it cannot be compensated for. The ancient laws are clear." "You're really into these ancient laws, huh?" Matt muttered from his position beside the throne. Princess Aloan watched him with an inscrutable expression. The blue vertical irises of her eyes caught the light as she studied him, her head slightly tilted. Unlike the open hostility of the others, she seemed curious. "The first trial begins at dawn," the Queen announced. "Guards, take the off-worlder to the preparation chamber. The aliens will remain in custody to ensure compliance." As the guard seized Matt's arms, Bark managed to power up his vocal systems and shout, "Sir, may I remind you, this is exactly what happens when you eat unknown substances. Your stomach has always gotten us into trouble." "Not helpful, Bark," Matt called back, as they dragged him away. C struggled against her restraints. "You're an idiot, Matt, who eats the delivery." "I was nervous," Matt protested, as the doors slammed behind him. The preparation chamber turned out to be a luxurious prison cell. Transparent crystal walls offered a breathtaking view of Valdora's twin moons hanging over purple forests, but the energy field humming at the doorway made it clear this was still a cage, albeit a fancy one. Matt flopped onto the oversized bed, its silky material adjusting to his body contours. "Well, this is just great," he muttered to the ceiling. "Imprisoned for eating fruit, probably going to die tomorrow because I got peckish." He spent hours trying to find a way out, examining every corner of the cell, but Valdora's security knew their business. The only consolation was that they'd left him his jacket, though they had confiscated everything in his pockets. A soft noise from the doorway made him bolt upright as the energy field shimmered then parted like water. Princess Aloan stepped through the field, resealing behind her. She wore a simpler outfit than before, a form-fitting silver jumpsuit that somehow managed to be both practical and flattering. "You're not supposed to be here, Matt," she said quickly. "Standing, I'm the princess, I go where I please," she replied, her voice melodic yet confident. She crossed the room with silent grace, examining him with those striking blue eyes. "You're human. I've never met one before." Valdora maintains strict isolation, few outsiders are permitted, and those that are carefully selected diplomats. She circled him like a scientist examining a new specimen. "You're the first unauthorized human to set foot in the royal palace in, well, ever." "Lucky me," Matt followed her movement. Aloan stopped circling and stood directly before him. Without warning, she leaned forward and pressed her lips against his cheek. The contact was brief but sent an unexpected spark through him. She stepped back, touching her own lips thoughtfully. "Interesting. Now I've given and taken a first kiss from a human." "That's not," Matt began, then stopped himself. "Wait, you designed these trials, didn't you?" "They were ancient," the Queen said. "But you just said outsiders aren't allowed here." A small smile played at Aloan's lips. "Aren't you perceptive? I have my moments." "So, what's your angle, princess? Why create impossible trials?" Elon moved to the window, gazing at the moons. "You know, these trials, I designed them specifically so no one could pass them without avoiding marriage. Smart, right?" She turned, something vulnerable flickering across her face as she bought time to finish, "My star cartographer, I want to see worlds beyond Valdora." "Matt," he joined her at the window, careful to maintain a respectful distance, "you're a scientist, aren't you?" "I'm many things," she replied. "Not permitted by Valdorian tradition." A royal blood should be decorative, ceremonial, and eventually maternal. Scientific curiosity is discouraged, but I built a star cartographer anyway in secret. Mother would have destroyed it if she knew. She's destroyed my other projects. Elon's gaze hardened. Physical strength and beauty are the only currencies that matter in our culture, the mind is considered secondary. Matt studied her profile, illuminated by moonlight. So you're beautiful, strong, and brilliant. Seems like you hit the jackpot. The first two are valued, the third makes me dangerous. She turned to him suddenly, her expression intense. Do you know what it's like to hide part of yourself, to pretend to be less than you are? Matt's usual flippant response died on his lips. Something in your question strikes uncomfortably close to home, maybe, he admitted quietly, but in my case, it's complicated. Elon stepped closer. You have secrets too, delivery man. Everyone has secrets. Their eyes locked for a moment, neither spoke. Then Elon's posture became more formal. The first trial is combat-based. Our champion has 6 arms and has never been defeated. Terrific, but it's not direct combat, it's a territorial challenge, what you might call, capture the flag. Matt's eyebrows shot up. That's surprisingly reasonable. I designed it that way. Most suitors expect strength contests and fail when faced with strategy. She walked to the door and then paused. The guards will come at dawn. Try to survive, Matthew Calvin. You're not what I expected, she said, then slipped through the energy barrier. Just call me Matt, he called after her, as the field resealed, leaving him alone with the moons and his thoughts. The arena sprawled before Matt, a massive labyrinth with translucent walls that allowed spectators to track participants from surrounding stands. Thousands of Valdorians had gathered, their excited chatter creating a constant background hum. Matt stood at his designated entrance, still wearing his courier jacket and cargo pants. They had offered him traditional combatant garb, which consisted mostly of decorative straps that wouldn't have covered anything important. Hard pass, he told the attendants. A trumpet-like instrument blared from the opposite entrance. His opponent emerged, a 6-armed warrior standing over 2 meters tall, his golden armor catching the morning light. Each arm wielded a different weapon, a sword, an axe, a mace, a whip, a dagger, and some kind of energy prod. Combatants, the Queen's amplified voice rang out, the objective is simple, capture your opponent's banner and return it to your starting position. Combat is permitted but not required. Matt spotted the small flag at opposite ends of the maze. His was blue, his opponent's was red. Of course it's red, Matt muttered. Subtle. Begin. Immediately, the warrior charged into the maze, moving with surprising speed despite his bulk. Meanwhile, Matt casually strolled into the labyrinth, yawning dramatically. The crowd laughed from the royal viewing box. Princess Aloan leaned forward, her expression unreadable. Matt sauntered through the corridors as if he were a tourist, occasionally stopping to examine the crystalline walls. The warrior, meanwhile, moved aggressively along the most direct path visible through the translucent barriers. Off-worlder mocks our traditions, someone shouted from the crowd. He did not take the challenge seriously. Matt ignored the jeers, pausing to trace a pattern on one of the walls as if drawing something with his finger. The warrior was getting closer to Matt's flag. Then, without warning, Matt broke into a sprint, not toward either flag, but toward a seemingly random spot where 4 passages intersected. He dropped to his knees and began examining the floor. The crowd's laughter grew louder, even the Queen smiled coldly at his apparent incompetence. Only Aloan watched with narrowed eyes. Leaning even further forward, Matt found what he was looking for, a small maintenance panel in the floor. With practiced movements, he pried it open and slipped inside. The crowd erupted in confusion as the warrior, now holding Matt's blue flag, looked around in bewilderment. Where has he gone? The Queen stood from her throne. Guards, find him. But as the guards approached the maze, a commotion arose from the warrior's starting position. Matt emerged from another maintenance panel, red flag in hand, casually dusting himself off. Looking for the dumbfounded warrior who was still halfway across the labyrinth, Matt strolled to his starting position and planted the red flag. The victory signal chimed, silence fell over the arena, followed by murmurs of disbelief. "Impossible," the Queen shouted. The official judge, an elderly Valdorian with elaborate facial markings, approached the throne. "Your Majesty, the rules state only that the flag must be captured and returned. No specific path was mandated." From his position, Matt shrugged. "I'm a courier, I find the fastest route. It's literally my job." He looked directly at the judge and winked, much to everyone's surprise. Later, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the preparation area for the second trial, Princess Aloan asked, "How did you know about the maintenance tunnels?" Matt replied nonchalantly, "Your maze walls were too perfect, someone has to clean and repair them. I just looked for the access points." Aloan studied him with new interest. "You're more observant than you appear. Don't tell anyone, I've got a reputation to maintain." Their eyes met, and something shifted between them. Aloan stepped closer. "You're the first challenger to pass the first trial," she said softly. "I didn't expect that. I'm full of surprises." In that moment, with a decisiveness that caught Matt off guard, Aloan leaned forward and pressed her lips squarely on his. The kiss was brief but electric. She pulled back, her eyes wide with boldness. "For luck, the wilderness trial is truly dangerous. I couldn't make it too easy, or Mother would have suspected." Matt's usual quick retort failed him. Instead, he simply nodded as a guard approached, signaling that it was time. "Find the ruins, they're your only chance," Aloan called after him as they were led away. In the jungle, the wilderness pulsed with alien life. Purple vegetation towered overhead, occasionally emitting luminescent spores that drifted like glowing snowflakes. Strange calls echoed through the dense undergrowth, some melodious, others distinctly predatory. Matt had been dropped from a hovering platform with nothing but the clothes on his back. The rules were simple: survive until sundown and reach the extraction point. Simple, but not easy. "Find the ruins," he muttered, pushing through a curtain of hanging vines. "Great, just find ancient ruins in an alien jungle, no problem." Suddenly, a low, rumbling sound made the hairs on his neck stand up. Matt froze, then slowly turned. A creature resembling a cross between a panther and a scorpion crouched on a nearby branch, its 6 eyes tracking his movement. Bioluminescent patterns rippled across its midnight blue hide. "Nice kitty," Matt whispered, slowly backing away. The creature pounced. Matt dove to the side, rolling through the underbrush and coming up running. The predator pursued with multiple legs, navigating the terrain with terrifying efficiency. "This is why I stick to space stations," Matt gasped, vaulting over a fallen log. The chase continued for several frantic minutes until Matt's foot caught in a root, sending him sprawling. He flipped onto his back just as the creature leaped, only to crash against an invisible barrier that flared blue on impact. The predator snarled in confusion, swiping at the suddenly appeared force field. Matt blinked, equally confused, until he realized he'd fallen against a partially buried structure. Ancient symbols glowed faintly where his hand touched the surface. "This must be the ruins," he breathed, keeping a wary eye on the frustrated predator. Matt began clearing away vegetation, revealing more of the structure. It wasn't simply buried, it was a massive installation that had been deliberately concealed. As he worked, more predators gathered beyond the force field's perimeter, watching him with hungry eyes. Overhead, aerial creatures circled, casting moving shadows across the ground. Hours passed as Matt explored the outer sections of the ruins. He found activation panels that expanded the protective field. By mid-afternoon, he had uncovered what appeared to be a main entrance, a triangular doorway inscribed with complex patterns. "Now what?" he wondered aloud, studying the symbols. As if in response, the patterns began to glow, scanning him with a grid of light. A mechanical voice spoke in an unfamiliar language. Yeah, I don't understand, Matt said, as the scan intensified, focusing first on his eyes, then his hand. The doorway slid open, and inside, Matt found himself in a control room of sorts. Dormant consoles lined the walls, covered in dust but otherwise pristine. At the center stood a circular platform with a holographic interface. When he approached, the holograms activated, displaying what appeared to be a three-dimensional map of the surrounding terrain. The creatures outside were represented as red dots swarming around the structure's blue perimeter. Okay, so this is some kind of observation post, Matt muttered. As he explored further, more systems activated. One console displayed biological readings of the creatures outside, another monitored environmental conditions, a third revealed something unexpected: the creatures weren't simply animals. The data indicated neural patterns consistent with rudimentary intelligence and a complex social structure. They're not just predators, Matt realized. They're the native sentient species. He spent the remaining hours studying the data, piecing together a theory. When the extraction team arrived at sunset, hovering nervously beyond the force field, Matt stepped out to meet them. Several of the creatures calmly walked alongside him, their images broadcast by drone cameras to the palace. Addressing the astonished audience, he declared, "They're not enemies. They're the guardians of this land, they've been protecting these ruins for generations." The Queen's voice came through the communication system. "Impossible. They are beasts." "They're intelligent," Matt countered. "And they've been trying to communicate with you for centuries. The ruins contain translation algorithms. I've established basic rapport." "How did you accomplish this?" the Queen demanded. Matt shrugged, patting one of the creatures which purred like an oversized cat. "I didn't try to fight them. Sometimes talking works better than shooting." In her viewing chamber, Princess Aloan smiled. The third trial began at noon the following day. Matt stood before a massive crystalline structure that hovered in the center of the grand hall. A holographic puzzle spun slowly, its complexity evident in thousands of interconnected geometric forms that periodically shifted and realigned. The ancestral enigma had remained unsolved for 12 generations, and the herald announced, the challenger must unravel its secrets to prove intellectual prowess. Matt yawned dramatically. "Is there any music in this thing? I could use some tunes while I work," he joked, drawing murmurs from the crowd. The Queen's face darkened, but Aloan's eyes sparkled with amusement. Matt approached the hologram, circling it with apparent disinterest. While everyone expected him to begin manipulating the geometric patterns, he instead reached toward the base of the projection where a small control node pulsed with energy. "This button looks interesting," he said, pressing it casually. Instead of the expected catastrophic failure, the entire hologram pulsed once, then reconfigured itself into a completely different pattern, a three-dimensional star map that wasn't supposed to happen. "Someone," whispered someone in the crowd. The star map expanded, revealing a navigational interface that seemed both ancient and incredibly advanced. Glowing pathways connected various stellar bodies, forming what appeared to be travel routes. "Hey," an elderly council member exclaimed, "you've activated the ancestral navigation system. It's been dormant for millennia." Matt shrugged. "I was just looking for the volume control." In reality, he recognized the system architecture from similar navigation arrays he had encountered during his courier routes. The enigma wasn't a puzzle at all, it was a dormant ship's computer in security lockdown. The crowd's whispers grew. He must be a cosmic sage, a wizard of the stars, perhaps one of the ancestors returned. Matt caught Aloan's eye across the room. She smiled, knowing better, though her smile held genuine admiration. The Queen rose from her throne. "The third trial is complete. The Offworlder has proven his worth in combat, survival, and intellect." Her voice carried no joy, only reluctant acknowledgement, as tradition demanded. "He will now prove his strength in the final trial." Aloan stepped forward. "I will prepare my chambers for the culmination," she announced as guards escorted Matt away. He caught a brief glimpse of something unexpected on the Queen's face, not anger or disappointment, but calculation. Something wasn't right, but he couldn't put his finger on what. Whatever it was would have to wait. He had a final trial to prepare for, and something told him this one wouldn't be solved by finding a maintenance tunnel or pressing the right button. Moonlight spilled through the tall crystalline windows of the princess's chambers, casting prismatic patterns across the luxuriously appointed room. Matt stood at the threshold, escorted by silent royal guards who bowed to Princess Aloan before retreating. The massive doors closed with a resonant thud that seemed to signal the finality of his situation. Aloan stood by the balcony, the twin moons of Valdora framing her silhouette. She changed into a flowing dark purple robe made of a semi-transparent material that caught the light with every movement. The intricate patterns of darker markings on her violet skin flowed like constellations across her exposed arms and neck. "So," Matt said, breaking the silence, "this is the famous final trial, huh?" He glanced around, taking in the massive four-poster bed with its shimmering canopy, the elegant furnishings, and the subtle, but unmistakable, romantic atmosphere. "It seems more like a reward than a challenge." Aloan turned from the balcony, a hint of amusement in her blue, vertical eyes. "Most would consider it the greatest prize on Valdora, a night with the princess." "And what does the princess consider it?" Matt asked, "Please explain." Aloan moved toward a small table where a crystal decanter held an iridescent blue liquid. "An opportunity," she said, pouring 2 glasses for conversation without watchful eyes. Matt accepted the offered drink, but didn't sip. "I'm guessing your mother has these rooms under surveillance, not these chambers." A smile played at her lips. "I've made certain modifications to ensure privacy. My mother believes the ceremonial shields protect royal modesty, but I repurposed them for true privacy." "Smart. I'm many things, but you wouldn't expect me to be," he said, raising his glass in a toast. They clinked glasses, though Matt still hesitated to drink. "Old habits die hard. Do you think I'd poison you after all this professional paranoia?" Aloan teased. "After all this?" Matt countered. "So you want conversation, what shall we talk about? Princess stars? Ancient technology? The weather? How about we discuss why my mother looked like she was calculating the exact trajectory of your downfall after you passed the 3rd trial?" Matt said, dropping his casual facade for a moment. Aloan's eyes flashed. "You caught that too." "I've spent my life reading her expressions. She wasn't disappointed by your success, she was pleased. Which makes no sense unless she wanted you to reach this point all along." Aloan finished, the sound of breaking glass shattering the moment. A dark figure crashed through the balcony window, somersaulting into a crouch. The assassin wore a form-fitting black combat suit with optical camouflage edges still shimmering from deactivation. In one fluid motion, the killer drew an energy blade that hummed with deadly intent. "Get down, Matt," he shouted, shoving Aloan behind him. The assassin lunged with inhuman speed, the energy blade slicing through the air where Matt's head had been just a split second earlier. Matt's reflexes, surprisingly sharp for a supposedly lazy courier, moved him into a defensive position in one smooth motion. He pulled a vibro blade from a hidden sheath in his jacket, a weapon no simple courier would carry. The energy blade and vibro blade collided in a shower of sparks. The assassin's eyes widened in surprise behind his mask. "Sorry to disappoint," Matt crowed, parrying another strike. The assassin spun, executing a flawless combination attack that would have gutted any normal opponent. Matt anticipated each move, blocking and counterattacking with precision that spoke of years of combat training. An opening appeared, Matt feinted left, then drove his vibro blade up and under the assassin's guard. The blade slid between armor plates and penetrated deeply, green blood seeped from the wound as the assassin stiffened and collapsed to the floor. Silence filled the room. Elon stared at Matt, her expression cycling through shock, confusion, and understanding. She started. "Yeah," Matt replied, wiping his blade clean with mechanical efficiency. "Not just a courier. He knelt beside the dead assassin, checking for identification. A small device on the killer's belt caught his attention, a transmitter bearing the royal crest of Valdora. "This assassin has royal authorization," he said grimly, holding up the device for Aloan to see. She pressed a hand to her mouth. "Only my mother has access to those codes." "I was afraid you'd say that." Matt reached into his jacket and pulled out a small communicator, unlike any standard courier equipment. He pressed a sequence of buttons and spoke clearly, "Calvin to team cover, blown. Activate Protocol Black Dawn." A familiar voice responded immediately, "About time, boss. I was getting tired of playing prisoner." The usual teasing tone now carried professional efficiency. "Executing Protocol Black Dawn," Bark's voice followed, lacking its usual overwrought military parody and instead carrying the clipped precision of an actual operative defense system. "We are compromising in 30 seconds. Aloan stared at the communicator, then at Matt. "What is happening? Who are you really?" "Matthew Calvin. Galactic Intelligence Special Operations Division. The lazy courier is my cover," he corrected, moving to check the perimeter of the room. "My team and I have been tracking suspicious activities from Valdora for 2 years, energy signatures matching weapons development, communications with known pirate factions, unusual resource allocations." "My mother," Aloan whispered, "we suspected someone in the royal family was planning to weaponize the ancient technology after your father's mysterious death." "It wasn't mysterious," Matt interrupted gently. "It was reported as a diplomatic incident on Sirius 4. There was no diplomatic mission to Sirius 4 on that date." "Matt," Aloan said, her voice trembling, "we believe he discovered her plans and opposed them." Matt knelt before her, his usual lazy demeanor completely gone. "The ancient tech buried on Valdora isn't just defense systems. Based on our analysis, this entire planet was once a massive weapons platform disguised as a colony ship. If fully activated, it could destroy star systems." Aloan's eyes widened in horror. "The star cartographer, I found references to massive energy signatures in the planet's core, but I thought they were natural phenomena." "They're not," Matt replied. "And your mother needs someone with the genetic signature of the founders to activate the core systems." Matt's gaze hardened. "That's why she was pleased when I passed the trials, she thinks I'm that key." The fruit of initiation, Aloan realized, contains nanobots that scan for genetic compatibility. The trials weren't to test worthiness, they were to confirm compatibility with founder technology. "Exactly," Matt said, "and now she's going to try to use me to activate the weapon." Aloan stood suddenly, determination replacing her shock. "We need to stop her. My team's already moving. C and Bark were never actually captured, we staged that to maintain my cover. They've been disabling security systems and gathering intelligence from inside." Just then, a series of distant explosions rocked the palace and alarms began blaring throughout the complex. "That's our signal," Matt said, checking his weapons. "We need to get to the ancient control center beneath the palace." The chamber doors burst open as Queen Vastra strode in, flanked by royal guards with weapons drawn. Her face contorted with rage when she saw the dead assassin. "The courier is more than he appears, and the queen is less than she appears," Matt countered, stepping protectively in front of Aloan. "A murderer and would-be conqueror using her own daughter as a pawn, you understand nothing." Vastra spat, "Valdora was meant to be ruled. The founders left us this power for a reason, they abandoned this weapon because they realized its danger." "Speak like my daughter," Matt retorted. "The galaxy needs order. Our order, the only order you'll be giving, is for your last meal in a prison cell." The queen smiled coldly. "I think not." She raised her hand, revealing a small control device. "The ancient systems are already powering up. All I need is your genetic signature, willing or not." Another explosion rocked the palace, closer this time. Several guards stumbled. In that moment of distraction, Matt grabbed Aloan's hand and shouted, "Pull." They leapt over the railing just as energy beams sliced through the air above their heads. Instead of falling to their deaths, they landed on an ascending hover platform with C at the controls, all 4 arms working different systems simultaneously. "Cutting it close, boss," C called out, her purple skin glowing with excitement. "Where's Bark?" Matt asked. "As we speak," C replied, remotely piloting their ship to the ruins, Bark's holding them off. Aloan looked back at the palace, her home now revealing itself as the center of a terrible conspiracy. "All my life, I dreamed of seeing other worlds. I never imagined it would happen like this," she whispered. "Sometimes the universe has a weird sense of humor," Matt squeezed her hand. Their escape was cut short when a royal interceptor roared overhead, its weapons locking onto them. Before it could fire a volley of precision shots, shredded engines signaled its demise. The flying junk swooped down, looking considerably more battle-ready than its dilapidated appearance suggested. "Need a ride?" Bark's voice came through the communicator. The loading ramp extended as the ship matched speed with their platform. Inside, Bark greeted them with a crisp salute, his old form now sporting several visible weapon attachments. "Vessel secure, sir. Course plotted for the ancient ruins." "The ruins?" Aloan asked. "Why go there?" "Because that's where the main interface to the planetary systems is located," Matt explained as they strapped in. "Your mother can initiate the startup from the palace, but full activation requires a direct connection at the primary node, and we need to destroy it." C slid into the pilot's seat. "But that much energy, Elon," she said, her face paling, "if the system's already initiating and we disrupt it, boom." "Boom," C confirmed cheerfully. "Big boom, we have a plan." Matt assured, "It's going to be close." The ship accelerated, evading pursuit craft with maneuvers no ordinary courier vessel should be capable of. As they approached the jungle region, energy readings spiked dramatically across their sensors. "She's already Ed, the activation sequence," Bark reported, planetary core energy rising exponentially. "Can we stop it?" Aloan asked, gripping the console. "Only by manually overriding with a true founder signature and redirecting the energy," Matt explained grimly. "It would require direct contact with the interface, likely death for whoever does it." Their eyes met in understanding. "There has to be another way," Aloan insisted. "There isn't time," Matt replied, his face softening. "C and Bark will get you to safety." "No," he silenced her with a quick, fierce kiss. "Some things are worth sacrificing for." He pressed his communicator into her hand. "Tell them I said to execute Omega Protocol. They'll understand." Before she could protest, Matt moved to the interface. He placed his hand on the glowing surface and felt an immediate connection as the system recognized him in a way it hadn't recognized the Queen. Pain coursed through his body as energy flooded his nervous system. Through blurring vision, he saw C appear and drag a struggling Aloan toward the exit. "Good, she will live," Matt managed to say as he redirected the surging power away from the weapon systems and into the planet's protective shields. The last thing he heard was the Queen's scream of rage as her plans literally disintegrated around her. Then darkness and light filtered slowly through his eyelids. He tried to move and immediately regretted it as pain shot through every nerve ending. A familiar voice advised, "I wouldn't try that yet. You've been officially dead twice in the past week." Matt forced his eyes open to find Aloan sitting beside a bed that definitely wasn't in a prison cell. The room looked like royal quarters, but not the ones he'd seen before. "Welcome to my new chambers," she replied, offering him water and what was left of the palace. Matt sipped gratefully. "You redirected the energy into the shield systems, took out half the royal district in the process, but saved everyone else," Aloan observed, a smile touching her lips. "Quite impressive for a lazy courier." The Queen, Aloan's expression darkened, didn't survive the energy surge. "The Council has formally recognized her crimes and, well, appointed me as the new ruler." "Queen, Alan," Matt tested, "the title has a nice ring to it." Actually, I've abolished the monarchy. We're establishing a scientific council instead, she replied, her eyes twinkling. There will be a special department for interstellar exploration. Sounds like you got your wish to see other worlds, Matt said. Speaking of which, he continued, the Galactic Intelligence Bureau has formally recognized your team's actions. Apparently, there's some kind of medal ceremony when you're well enough to travel. Matt groaned. Please tell me I don't have to wear a uniform. I think they'll make an exception for the man who prevented an interstellar war. Aloan took his hand gently. They're also offering you any assignment you want. Any assignment, huh? Matt considered. What if I want an extended mission as scientific liaison to Voldora's new government? Alan's smile broadened. I think that could be arranged. The door slid open, and C entered, all four arms laden with various medical equipment and what looked suspiciously like contraband food. The Walking Dead awakens, she announced cheerfully. Bark owes me 50 credits, he calculated. Your survival chances are less than 12%, Bark added helpfully. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Matt muttered. Inside the ruins, they raced through corridors now fully illuminated with power, reaching the central chamber just as Queen Vastra emerged from a side passage, flanked by her most elite guards. You're too late, she gloated. The activation has reached critical threshold. The central platform glowed with blinding energy, swirling in complex formations around a central pillar. At the top of the pillar, a space clearly designed for a hand interface, pulsed with expectation. All it needs is your touch. Your genetic signature will complete the circuit. I'd rather die, Matt growled. That can be arranged. Vastra replied coldly, after you serve your purpose. The guards rushed forward. Matt engaged them with lethal efficiency while Aloan circled toward the controls, her scientific knowledge guiding her every move. Matt, she called out, I can reverse the process, but I need time. Time is a luxury we don't have, he replied, dispatching another guard. The queen realized what Aloan was attempting and lunged for her daughter, energy dagger drawn. Ungrateful child. Not today, your majesty. Matt intercepted her, blocking the blow meant for Aloan. They fought brutally across the chamber. The queen was surprisingly skilled, her blade slicing Matt's arm and shoulder. I underestimated you, courier, she hissed. A mistake I won't repeat. You made one critical error, Matt replied, blood streaming down his arm. You threatened someone I care about. With a sudden burst of speed, Matt disarmed the queen and pinned her against the central pillar. It's over. No, she snarled. It's just beginning. She slammed her hand onto the interface, laughing maniacally. My bloodline also carries the founder's genetics, diluted but sufficient. The chamber erupted with energy. The queen screamed as power surged through her body. The interface rejected her imperfect signature but still initiated the final sequence. I'm destabilizing the system. Aloan shouted over the growing roar of energy. We have minutes before total planetary destruction. Matt raced to her side. Can we stop it? Only by manually overriding with a true founder signature and redirecting the energy, she explained rapidly. But it would require direct contact with the interface. Matt finished grimly, and likely death for whoever does it. Their eyes met in understanding. There has to be another way, Aloan insisted. There isn't time, Matt said. C and Bark will get you to safety. No, she protested, but Matt silenced her with a quick, fierce kiss. Some things are worth sacrificing for. He pressed his communicator into her hand. Tell them I said to execute Omega Protocol, they'll understand. Before she could protest further, Matt moved to the interface. He placed his hand on the glowing surface and felt an immediate connection as the system recognized him in a way it hadn't recognized the Queen. Pain coursed through his body as energy flooded his nervous system. Through blurring vision, he saw C appear and drag a struggling Aloan toward the exit. Good, she will live, Matt said as he redirected the surging power away from the weapon systems and into the planet's protective shields. The last thing he heard was the Queen's scream of rage as her plans literally disintegrated around her. Then, darkness and light filtered slowly through his eyelids. He tried to move and immediately regretted it as pain shot through every nerve ending. A familiar voice advised, "I wouldn't try that yet. You've been officially dead twice in the past week." Matt forced his eyes open to find Aloan sitting beside a bed that definitely wasn't in a prison cell. The room looked like royal quarters, but not the ones he'd seen before. "My new chambers," she replied, offering him water. "And what's left of the palace?" Matt sipped gratefully. "You redirected the energy into the shield systems, took out half the royal district in the process, but saved everyone else." A smile touched her lips. "Quite impressive for a lazy courier." The Queen, Aloan's expression darkened, didn't survive the energy surge. "The council has formally recognized her crimes and, well, appointed me as the new ruler." "Queen, Alan," Matt tested, "has a nice ring to it." "Actually, I've abolished the monarchy," she said. "We're establishing a scientific council instead." Her eyes twinkled. "There will be a special department for interstellar exploration. Sounds like you got your wish to see other worlds." "Speaking of which," Matt added, "the Galactic Intelligence Bureau has formally recognized your team's actions. Apparently, there's some kind of medal ceremony when you're well enough to travel." Matt groaned. "Please tell me I don't have to wear a uniform. I think they'll make an exception for the man who prevented an interstellar war." Aloan took his hand gently. "They're also offering you any assignment you want." "Any assignment, huh?" Matt considered, looking at their intertwined fingers. "What if I want an extended mission as scientific liaison to Valdora's new government?" Alan smiled broadly. "I think that could be arranged." The door chimed, announcing visitors. Bark and C entered, each carrying small packages. "Back on my home world, we always exchange tokens before a big voyage. It's a statistically sound practice," C announced, her 4 arms each holding a different gift-wrapped box. Bark added, "I've created miniature force field generators for when the captain inevitably finds trouble." Aloan handed out crystalline pendants containing living memory spores that preserved emotions and images. When it came to Matt's gift, he hesitated before handing over a small package to Alan. "This might be breaking protocol," he warned. Alan unwrapped it carefully to reveal a small velvet box inside, which nestled a ring formed from an alloy of Valdorian crystal and earth metals, shaped into intertwining spirals. "This symbolizes a permanent partnership," Matt explained, suddenly finding it difficult to maintain his usual casual demeanor. Elon's eyes glistened. "I may have researched customs extensively," she murmured as she slipped the ring onto her finger, where it caught the light in iridescent patterns that matched her skin. "I accept your proposal, Agent Calvin." "See?" Bark hooped, his markings flashing excited patterns. "You owe me credits again. I calculated a 78% probability of postponement until after the first planetary transit." Bark protested, but his eyelights flickered in what they all recognized as his version of happiness. Later that night, as final preparations for Valdora's historic journey continued, Matt and Aloan stood on her private balcony beneath the twin moons. "Where should we go first?" she asked, her head resting against his shoulder as they gazed at the stars. "I know this great beach planet in the Centaur system," he suggested. "Perfect for a honeymoon, before the wedding." "Scandalous, right? We're literally flying a planet across the galaxy." "I think we're beyond conventional timelines," Aloan teased. Elon laughed, the sound mingling with the night breeze. "I never thought eating forbidden fruit could lead to this, the best delivery mistake I ever made." "Matt taught us something important," he agreed, pulling her closer. "Sometimes the most important qualifications for saving the universe are a good nap, strategic incompetence, and knowing when to actually try." Han Solo would be proud, while Captain Kirk would probably take notes on your alien romance techniques. "Did you catch all the sci-fi Easter eggs scattered throughout?" he asked with a grin, from Princess Bride references to classic Star Wars-inspired escapes. This story is my love letter to all the space adventurers who've come before, with a healthy dose of what if the hero just really couldn't be bothered. If that isn't the definition of a successful delivery route, I don't know what is, Matt concluded. Sometimes, the universe teaches us that the most important qualifications for saving it are a good nap, strategic incompetence, and knowing when to actually try. And so, dear Star Hoppers, there you have it, the galaxy's laziest courier just saved a planet, fell in love with a genius alien princess, and somehow managed to avoid filling out the insurance paperwork for a damaged fruit basket. If that isn't a successful delivery route, I don't know what is. If Matt taught us anything, it's that sometimes the most important qualifications for saving the universe are a good nap, strategic incompetence, and knowing when to actually try. Han Solo would be proud, while Captain Kirk might take notes on the alien romance techniques. Did you catch all the sci-fi Easter eggs scattered throughout? From Princess Bride references to classic Star Wars-inspired escapes, this story is my love letter to all the space adventurers who've come before. With a healthy dose of, what if the hero just really couldn't be bothered, I'd love to know if this tale of accidental heroism made you laugh, if Alan's scientific rebellion inspired you, or if you're now suspicious of every exotic fruit you encounter at dinner parties. The comment section is my version of Matt's delivery confirmation receipt. Please sign on the dotted line with your thoughts. May your own journeys through the cosmos be filled with adventure, romance, and significantly fewer assassination attempts than our reluctant heroes. Until the next delivery, your humble cosmic scribe. P.S. Bark would like me to inform you that the statistical probability of a sequel is approximately 76%, contingent upon reader enthusiasm and the author's caffeine intake.